is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this. This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
Good morning, my name is Raja here and I am responsible for the Recusant 9 channel. Thank you very, very much for joining me this morning. Two things. First of all, whilst I have everyone's attention, I'd like to thank everyone who has contacted me regarding the latest threats to my life, this time by the journalist, the so-called investigative journalist Neil Wilby, who is claiming that I am a police informant. Senior police officers, past and present, have been in touch with me to press on me the significance of such a malicious claim. I have reported the matter to the police, and I very much hope that the police will arrest this man because this is as much of a death threat as anything else I've faced before. Moving on to what this morning is about. Jewish friends of mine, and yes, as a claimed, accused far-right activist, I have Jewish friends. Jewish friends of mine have contacted me very, very anxious about developments in Oldham this week, and I felt compelled to share with you what I know, what has been hidden from all of you by the mainstream press and by those who lead our town. This should not in any way be a surprise to any of you. Anyway, let me bring up a screen like I usually do. Those who are familiar with my transmissions will know my format by now. Let me bring up a screen. I should have a little image of me in the corner this time, so this software is getting better, or my ability to use it is getting better. So let's get on with this. Okay. This is a factory in Oldham, Elbit. Elbit is a successful factory, Clarksfield, and it's owned by, it's an Israeli owned firm, and it has been for the best part of 2 years now subject to a relentless campaign by Palestinian rights activists. Now, I have no issue whatsoever with Palestinian rights activists. In fact, I am a vocal opponent of many of Israel's policies, just as I am a vocal opponent of many of the policies of many governments across the world. So I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid whatsoever. But this is unacceptable, and it's unacceptable for a number of reasons. This factory has recently been awarded a Ministry of Defence contract, £100 million plus. The £100 million plus contract in a town such as ours, suffers massive deprivation and poverty is huge, because if we can bring one company in, we can bring another and another, and maybe rebuild ourselves out of the mess we find ourselves in. But unfortunately, this is not the case, and this business has been relentlessly attacked by for the last couple of years, and the politicians that run this town have remained silent until now. They've been more than silent. Now remember the context of this. The Labour Party is a proven racist party. The Equality and Human Rights Commission condemned them as anti-Semites. They were forced to accept it. Sir Keir Starmer and all of his mates were forced to accept that they're anti-Semites, that they have a problem in the Labour Party. So, when an Israeli-owned company is savagely attacked in our town, and our mainstream politicians remain silent to it, that is nothing more than a continuation of the anti-Semitism that is prevalent within that party. Remained silent, but it gets worse. It gets worse for these people. Here is the Palestinian Action as a statement, and it came with Extinction Rebellions. Apparently they combined to shut down the Israeli arms factory in Oldham. Now, it's not an Israeli arms factory in the sense that they're promoting it to be, but it's fine. Let's go on with this. The Ferranti Technologies plant. Now, Ferranti is a historical name in our town of a past where we were much better than we are now. And they described themselves as activists. And they stormed the factory. The language is very emotive. They stormed the factory in the early hours, blockading 3 entrances and another 2 climbing onto the roof. They also admit to causing over £20,000 worth of damage. Nick Jackson, the council-funded Oldham Times. The council-funded Oldham Times ran the story and called it a protest. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't a sit-down little protest outside with an old woman holding a placard. It was an attack. Jeremy M.T. Sutcliffe, Jim McMahon's agent. That's him there. Agent to the MP, the Shadow Minister for Transport. I wonder how many were actually Oldhamers. Active Labour Party campaigner, those of you who follow these will know. Here is the man I want to draw your attention to. He is not an outsider to Oldham. In fact, it's worse for this man. Not only is he not an outsider to Oldham. Here he is, close up, do you see? Elbit out of Oldham. This man is called Imran Yusuf. Imran Yusuf is the Labour Party candidate for St Mary's Ward. Imran Yusuf is the Labour Party candidate for St Mary's Ward. This is the St Mary's Ward without whom Debbie Abrahams would have failed to have won the election. Remember, she cleaned up in St Mary's Ward. And so there is no doubt what we mean by St Mary's Ward. Or, as you can tell from these pictures, there is no doubt which demographic we are talking about. St Mary's Ward is essentially Glodick. The cartel-controlled community of Glodick. Here they are. You can see a busy evening campaigning in St Mary's Ward with Imran Yusuf. Imran Yusuf, candidate, official Labour Party candidate for St Mary's Ward. Not only that, Imran Yusuf should know better. Imran Yusuf went through a leadership programme, I think run by Unite the Union, that was identifying future Labour Party politicians. Here he is on a trip to Labour Party campaigning for Rebecca Long Bailey. You can see Rebecca Long Bailey. Here he is meeting Zara Sultana, a young activist who is now an MP. And here he is right next to Rebecca Long Bailey. Now remember, Rebecca Long Bailey was kicked out of her position because of anti-Semitism. And here he is He knows Debbie Abrahams well enough to put his arm around her. He knows Debbie Abrahams well enough to put his arm around her. Imran was also, for those who don't know, Imran was also shortlisted to be an MP for the Labour Party. So that's how much of a mover and shaker this man is in the Labour Party. Unfortunately, if you are a mover and shaker of this status in the Labour Party, in any political party, the problem is when you go and stand outside a legal business. Imran, if you've got a problem with this business, with your influence in the Labour Party, why are you not getting the Labour Party to issue a statement of arms sales? This is an Oldham-based business, mate, giving jobs to Oldhamers. If you have a problem with this factory, and your problem is legitimate, if you have a problem with that, someone of your status should be engaging with Debbie Abrahams, a woman you put your arm around. You should be engaging with Jim McMahon. You should be engaging with all of the hierarchy in the Labour Party. Instead, you are encouraging children, and look who is next to children, encouraging children. Official candidate for Sean Fielding's Labour Party in Oldham in the cartel-controlled ward of St Mary's. Why are the other Labour Party councillors, MPs all silent to the vicious attack on a local business? By their silence, they endorse it. By their silence, they continue the anti-Semitism that is in the Labour Party. This man has refused to issue a statement following what took place. Now, the issue here isn't him stood out there. It's people know who he is. Remember when Donald Trump in America was doing his speech, and all of those campaigners used that as some form of legitimacy to raid? These people know what they're doing. By standing alongside these activists, they embolden them to cause havoc. And what these people do is exploit the very communities they represent, because they have the power to direct those campaigns, those issues, those genuine grievances into the Labour Party. But they don't. Because the Labour Party runs with the hare and it runs with the hounds. On one hand, it is pro-arms, pro-Israeli occupation, pro-whatever, and the other arm in the communities where the Muslim communities is the vote matters, the cartel control vote matters. They pretend to be anti-Israeli and anti-arms, but they're not. They're just exploiting. They're just exploiting all of you. Yes, Harry, it endorses it. I'm going to put Harry up here. His actions, Imran Yusuf's actions, endorsed this attack. This is a Labour Party candidate. Sean Fielding, where's your statement about your Labour Party candidate in St Mary's? Jim McMahon, Debbie Abrahams, what do you have to say? Debbie is your friend, unless you let any man put their arms around you. Disgusting. Disgraceful. Absolutely, absolutely unbelievable that in this town that is desperate to attract business, that is desperate to support industry, we should have a Labour Party candidate encouraging. And then the Labour Party MPs and politicians that run this town remaining silent whilst a business, a legitimate business, is attacked. And the local newspapers gloss over the damage, the criminal damage, and call them protesters as though what they did is legitimate. I will see my usual rabble at 7:30 this evening. And for everyone else, thank you for taking the time out. But this man cannot stand. And if this man stands, it does nothing other than proves to all of us that anti-Semitism is alive and well and endorsed in Oldham by the Labour Party.